guys ready? Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you guys for coming out to I Just Want to Talk. Today's focus will be on community. We just wanted to get together and just release how we were feeling. So thank you all for supporting and getting the word out. And also thank you guys for donating to support tonight's event. So give it up for yourselves.
And I'm Reid, and we're the creators of Girlfriends Television. So, we basically were just linking up with Leah, the founder of Creative Women of ATO. And we're just working on the project, and in the midst of all that, so much started going on. I feel like in a week's span, so much happened. So we were just like, let's just pause on this project and just get everyone together because this is crazy. I feel like everything is just everywhere. Like, let's just get our community together and talk. There's only so much we can say on social media. So, that's how we got here. So I'm gonna give them back to Nick and let her get started.
Hi guys, my name is Nick. I go by Nick Space online. Thank you guys so much for coming. We are beyond ecstatic just to have you guys here on such short notice, just to see that we can organize and actually come together to actually make a difference is amazing. I'm gonna be moderating today, so I'm gonna be controlling the conversation. So we have refreshments over here if you guys haven't already gotten them. Hopefully everybody is comfortable. We took temperatures at the door. We have masks, sanitizers, so you guys can all stay COVID safe. So we're gonna go ahead and introduce our speakers, and then we're gonna get started.
All right, so I'm just gonna pass this one, and then I'll do the same.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Janine, also known by some as Suzi Soma, and I'm a small business owner. I make chokers and chains. Each one is made really to remind you of your creative potential. And I just love self-care, so I'll be sharing some goodies with y'all today.
Good afternoon, I'm SundariMoneek. I'm the owner of Sanktuarii over in the West End. It is a medical boutique or a spiritual boutique, and I will be talking to you all about mental health today.
Hi everyone, thank you guys for coming. My name is Brittany Guerin. I am an educator, a writer, and a photographer. I'm super excited to talk to you guys about education. We need to talk more about it, so thank you guys for having me.
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm Reid. I'm an attorney, rapper, business developer, and kind of a community developer as well. What I was asked to speak about here was how we can affect change in the judicial system. So that's what we're going to do. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate it.
Hi everyone, my name is Lisa Banjo. Thank you all for coming, and I'm one of the organizers for a relief fund called Atlanta Black Women Relief. So guys, I'll be talking to you all about why we got that started and how we did it.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Damani. I was asked to come talk about LGBTQIA issues, specifically about allyship and how to amplify that. So that should be
Thank you.
Hi, Miles Robertson, Cynthia, Anita Barrow. And we're both from Better ATL, and we're going to be talking about how to use social media to help the cause.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, so we're just gonna get straight to it. So I feel like this past week has been super draining for us all. I feel like the common battle has been us trying to stay aware and keep up on social media, but also maintain our mental health. So I'm actually gonna have Ms. Reid and Suzi to talk more about how we can balance and support wellness during this time.
Well, I'm going to start by saying that before we start anything, that we always need to pay homage to the ancestors. We need to pay homage to ourselves for showing up. And as a collective, if everyone can just close their eyes, focus at the space in between your eyebrows, and we're going to do a collective 4 breaths so we can link and sync our energies. Inhaling in all that is good and of love and of light, and exhaling and releasing anything that is stagnant. Again, inhaling the love energy, the positivity, the light. Exhaling any chaos, negativity. Inhaling again deeply into your stomach, all that is good. And exhaling that is no longer serve you. Inhaling again, the love, and exhaling, I'd like to hear it as you release. it is important that we all breathe. Breath is prana, breath is life. Breath is what we do when we first get here, and breath is the last thing that we have when we leave this planet. In dealing with mental health, there are some really specific things that you can do. And I'm gonna jump right into it because I don't have a lot of time, but breath work, breath work, breath work. When you are feeling stressed, when you're feeling anxiety, when you are feeling over emotional, when you're on that roller coaster ride of emotions, breathe. Shut your eyes and take a deep breath. And even if you don't have the time to shut your eyes, your breath work is important. The proper way to breathe is taking it down into your stomach and letting it out. We all have to be mindful of these masks that we're wearing, to sometimes take them off and to breathe and to let that energy flow. Some very practical aspects of dealing with mental health is to take an accountability of how you feel in the moment. How you feel. Pay attention to your triggers. Pay attention to the things that get you upset. Pay attention to the things that make you feel like you want to cry or make you feel depressed, especially during this time. Pay attention to your feelings. And once you pay attention to your feelings, then you can begin to do the work. The work may look like tears. It may look like shouting. It may look like being creative. When you are in that place of heavy emotions, that's a great time to create. It's a great time to release, because that creative energy, that fire that is burning, is your root chakra. That's that red energy. That's that kundalini energy, and that is creative energy. So how you choose to use that is important. But again, paying attention to how you feel and what you do with that. This is not the time to be violent in any way, because we are essentially sitting ducks in a way, and you don't want to bring that energy back to yourself. There are healthy ways in which you can deal with that, and being creative, we all have that God energy within us to create. So figure it out, be it you work out, you paint, you draw, you sing, you dance, whatever. Even if that requires you to go out and scream, or to be screaming a pillow, or whatever the case may be. The other thing is tap into the elders in your life. Tap into your grandmothers, your parents. Many of them have been through this. Find out what they did, if they did anything at all. Some of them did nothing and may regret the fact that they didn't do anything. You all have the fire. You are the youth. You have the energy. That collective energy is powerful. And what you choose to do with that can make all of the difference in the world. And mental health is important. I'm going to give you a book. There's a sister called Dr. Joy DeGruy. Look her up. She's on Instagram. She is on Facebook. Her YouTube videos are very powerful. Dr. Joy DeGruy. And her lecture mostly is on PTSD, post-traumatic slave disorder. And it's a very real thing. There are attributes that go along with that. We are all children of that. We all, whether you're aware of it or not, have aspects of our lives that carry on or have carried on in an epigenetic fashion. Just like you can pass down brown eyes, you can pass down trauma. And a lot of the things that you may be dealing with may not even belong to you. They may be your grandmothers, grandfathers, aunties, uncles. But if you're not having the conversations, you don't know. It is important to open your mouth. If you're feeling depressed, depression is your friend. Trust me when I say this. It is your friend because it is pushing you to deal with whatever that issue is. It is pushing you to deal with yourself, to face self. The self is the most important thing. You are the most important thing in person in this room. Period. Your life and how you proceed to live, your choices on a day-to-day basis, is your responsibility. When you get up in the morning, what you choose to put in your mouth, in your mind, and in your heart is part of what is going to help you to succeed and be successful in your day and in your lives. So look up Dr. Joy DeGruy. Research her. Listen to what she is saying, because she has very practical ways of helping you through these times and helping you through the day-to-day. And she will help you to understand and to put into words some of the things that you're feeling and some of the things that your friends are feeling. allow each other and give each other space, hold space for each other. I know we're dealing with this COVID thing, I know we're dealing with this corona thing, but you have to understand the word corona means crown. The crown is rising, the sun is rising, the sun within each of us is rising. And with that being said, now is the time. Now is the time for not only action, but meditation and going inward. And there's nothing that you can do outside that has not been done inside first. So if you're out here wilding out, it's because you're wilding out from on the inside first. So it's imperative for you to breathe. Use your breath work. Your breath work is going to keep you connected to your spirit. It does not matter what religion, what form of spirituality you practice. It matters not. It all goes back to nature. It all goes back to the one. And that one is inside of each and every one of us. And what you recognize in somebody else is what you have in yourself. So pay attention to your energy, pay attention to your triggers, pay attention to when you're sad, and go towards it. Face your fears, walk to your fears, because that's really where the power is. The power is in that dark energy, hence the melanin, hence the universal darkness that we are all born from. Hence your mother's womb, which is dark and which you were born from. And when you're born, that breath of life is alive in you. And that's what's going to keep you connected to spirit. That's what's going to keep you connected to nature. Nature is where we all come from and where we're all going back to. So if you have any questions about how you deal with the ups and downs of this time, the answer is inside. Go there first. Use your breath work. Close your eyes. Focus at that space in between your eyebrows, your third eye. It will open. It may be a little calcified because what you're eating and what you're listening to and all the rest of that. But if you continue to do the work to remember, you will remember. We're put here to remember who we are as sacred beings, who we are as God beings in our God self. So what I have to offer to you all, breathe, hold space for each other, be an ear, get off of the emotional roller coaster, because that's, if you fear something, that fear has control over you. And pay attention to the amount of media that the media lies, period. It's Hollywood. It's made to make you go back and forth. Your best bet, hop on Instagram, listen to your friends, pay attention to what's going on outside, take pictures, play your part. And if you feel like you don't know what to do, start inside your own family. Have those discussions on economics, on spirituality, on who your parents were when they were your age. All of these things are relative, and they all make a difference. Okay? Does anybody have any quick questions?
I think passing the mic around you.
SundariMoneek, and if you want to come talk to me, I have a shop over here in the West End called the Sanktuarii. It's on that little side street, Pool Street, in between Afrocentric Network and West End, right across the street from West End Mall. And it's we're on Instagram. Sanktuarii is Sanktuarii. We're also on Facebook. But does somebody in there got a question?
Yeah, I'll pass the mic around to anybody who has any questions or any inputs. Any questions for Ms. Reid?
Well, I thought that was great. I felt that.
Actually, I do have one more thing to add. Your prayer time, your meditation time, if you can sit your ass on Instagram for 4 hours a day, you can spend 30 minutes meditating. Okay, that's all right.
First off, I'm just so grateful that we started off with that breath work.
Yes.
It was so necessary. And it's amazing what you spoke on today. When I was thinking about self-care and what's helped me throughout this week, a lot of it has been mainly self-awareness. And like you said, just being able to recognize any triggers that you have for yourself and paying attention to what really helps you when you do engage in your self-care and your wellness, and understanding the type of self-care that you need for that moment. So like you were saying, there's different things that we can engage in. So for each emotion, if we're upset, then, you know, maybe we need to run, maybe we need to write, maybe we need to make a plan, maybe we need to take action. Maybe we need to just sit for a moment. You know, if we're sad, then maybe we need to laugh. So just taking a moment to really, really keep in mind what's gonna address the feelings that you have and what you can do to make a change. Because when I think of self-care, I think a lot of times, you know, some people you think of in this day and age, you know, on Instagram, you think of like candles and bubble baths, or you may even think of like face masks and all of the things from a superficial perspective, but really I think of it as caring for yourself in a long-term perspective and being able to plan for yourself and care for yourself so you can just live a healthy life and you can live a balanced life. So even this past week, of course, you know, it was a lot, you know, it was stressful, but, you know, for me, one thing that was helpful was I was so happy finding out that we would have this event. I was like, okay, let me write some ideas down, let's write some plans down, let's have an action plan for not just this week, but how we can continue to better our community, you know, over years to come. You know, because of course it has to be a long-term plan, you know, and I love everything coming together and seeing people come together this whole week. That's been amazing, but of course having that long-term plan is something that can give me a greater level of peace, because I can be able to look at what's happening right now and know that, okay, I have taken some actions that I can keep working towards, and I can feel a bit more empowered. So I feel like just having a plan and then also just holding that self-awareness with you and being able to recognize your emotions, because a lot of us, I think, we try to suppress our emotions. So if you can actually go into those emotions and take a moment to really sit with it and try to evaluate where it's coming from, maybe journal or, you know, talking with a friend or even just sitting down, then that's when you can really be able to address how you need to handle whatever it is that you're feeling. And if you need to go out and do something, if you need to sit down, if you need to laugh, call someone, cry, whatever. And I feel like just being able to be self-aware is something that's so important, because we can't afford to be burnt out. You know, we can't afford to stress our bodies out and stress our mind out. We just can't afford to do that. So it's really important to be able to be self-aware and all the many things that we've listed, and just knowing what really works for you. It can be gardening, eating healthy, deep breathing, so many different things, but just being able to understand what's going to work for you, I feel like is very important, because we always have to take self-care and care for ourselves in the process. Otherwise, you know, of course, we'll be taken down by stress and anxieties and chaos in this world. So that's pretty much everything I was thinking about.
About you guys, but even before just the protesting and everything going on, just when the pandemic started, you know, I got off of work early because, you know, the pandemic happened, and I literally did not know what to do. Like, I just found myself just sitting in my room staring at the ceiling sometimes, like not really knowing what was going on. And then, you know, when this stuff happens, I'm just like, okay, now I just gotta stay on social media. Like, I gotta stay up on everything. Like, I was just like, wait a second, like, this is just too much. So the fact that you guys are giving us these tips on how to work through these things like running and journaling is really good. And I just want you guys to know this is a safe space. Like, if you guys want to share any of your times of this, I don't know, just feeling any type of mentally just stressed or anything, this is what we came to do, guys. Because we didn't have a time to talk about this because we were in a pandemic. So it's not like, you know, the pandemic happened and we could just like go to the club and like, you know, and forget about our worries. We didn't have that, let alone even talking to our friends for real because we couldn't see them. So this is our time, you know, so just get comfortable. Like, we definitely want to hear y'all opinions and everything, so yeah.
It's a multi-layered thing. That's been the heaviest part about this entire thing, is that it's so multi-layered. Not only is it a pandemic where we are fearing for our safety, but we have to fight and sift through social and racial injustices. So it's like where there hasn't really been any time whatsoever to really be up, you know, to really catch any air. We've been underwater since March. For me personally, like, that's when, you know, my job was like, everybody, you know, take a break, there's a virus outside. We were like, oh, seriously? And then it's like, there's so much going on, so it's like every day, sometimes you forget, you're like, oh, okay, people are protesting, then you're like, oh, crap, the world is also on fire over here too. So it's like, it's just so much that, you know, that goes into it. And just to piggyback off of what Reid said and what Suzi said about taking time to yourself and actually, you know, practicing mindfulness. because this is such a heavy topic, and because each of us are individually being affected by this, not only is it a pandemic, there is lack of resources. People are upset for so many different reasons. So it's just like every day there's something new to be worried about. And I know that it has been difficult for me personally on an individual standpoint to make time for myself, better get my friends. So I've just been trying to create a routine for myself, and I've been, trying to tell everybody that creating a routine is the best thing to do, because not only do we have so much time, it's like, what do you do with it? Do we want to organize? Do we want to just take a breath? Do we want to go outside? It's just trying to balance and try to find some type of normalcy here, because we can't help in any way if we can't help ourselves. So.
Woo! Y'all said everything I was trying to say. But lately for me, the best thing that's been helping me out, like when I do unplug, I just see it as time to educate myself. Like there's been so many people sharing like resources like PDFs or books. So I just use that time to educate myself, because like Ms. Reid said, we all do play a part and we all have a role to contribute to change. But we'll get to that later on.
Yeah.
But, so I just feel like that was great to start off like that deep breath. I was really into it. But, so yeah, we can move on to the next topic. I mean, any questions? No? Okay. Y'all gonna warm up later. It's
I know,
fine.
y'all need another sandwich. Alright, but this is a really great segue, because just speaking of like everything going on, I get on my timeline now, and after the pandemic, it's like everybody came for everything. Like everyone is addressing everything. I'm just like, y'all not letting none of this go. All the receipts. I'm just like, okay, so there's just people going back and forth about, the rioting and the looting, like what's the right thing to do. And, people still think black on black crime is prevalent. So that's an argument that's on Twitter. There's just so many things that people are just bringing up. And I'm just like, wow, like, I don't even know how, it was just so many layers coming off. I don't know if anyone else felt that on the timeline too, but it was just so many.
Every day or something.
It was every day something was new.
It's
still, girl, I'm talking about the new stuff coming up. But yeah, so I'm just like, okay, how can we fix us and society? You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about battling societal ways. There's so many things in the black community that we're still unraveling and we have to fix. So that's really all I even saw going back and forth in my timeline. So one of the biggest things that I saw was the fact that women and people of the LGBTQ community were being underrepresented when it comes to police brutality. So I do want to have Damani speak on that, so we can just figure out like what are some ways that the cisgendered community use their privilege just to speak out for them.
Okay. So can you repeat your question for me?
Yeah, I have it on my note card. Let me read it out.
Okay.
So, what are some ways that cisgender allies can use their privilege to amplify the voices of the LGBTQ community?
Okay, so I think that that's like a very great question. Oftentimes I think that our understanding of like allyship is kind of skewed. And so allyship has kind of become this kind of like performative, very aesthetic rhetoric that we use to say that we actually care for people in communities, which oftentimes become eclipsed, or we don't see really any structural change. So I think the first thing is understanding kind of how allyship may or may not have betrayed a kind of declaration that it wants to embark on. I'm really torn between allyship because I think that for many people they want to find a way to be there for that identity that they don't possess. They want to find a way to be intentional in using that privilege, whatever that means. I think that allyship is really about, we haven't read any articles where we're going to see cisgendered heterosexual men defending trans women. And so we haven't read that argument on Twitter. And so we don't have that discourse, we don't have those conversations. We don't read in the paper, some white boy has taken a shot in Trayvon Martin's place. And so some people might ask, does this mean that allyship means that like people with certain privileges need to die. I've been asked questions like that. And I don't think that they're really understanding the metaphor, which is that if your life isn't on the line like the trans person is, or like the black person is, how can you be a part of that kind of structural change that you want to see? And so I think that it really does require being educated about the multi-dimensional aspects of your identity. So even with Black Lives Matter, and we can use that as an example in how it was started by 3 queer women, but now the movement has kind of been eclipsed by Black men dying in the street. They're the ones that are going to be represented on the New York Times Magazine. They're the ones that are going to give a story, even in a very weird way. I just graduated from Morehouse, and so one of our students, Messiah Young, was attacked by the police, and it's been kind of circulating across the media. But honestly, it feels like much of his story and not the young lady's story, who was also attacked by the police. And so we oftentimes don't know the names of Breonna Taylor. We're not talking about Tony McCabe. We're not talking about, there was another trans woman, Iana Dior. Yeah. And so how do we put them into these conversations? I also think this is a good time for Black people to really interrogate what gender means to them. Do we want gender? Is it something worth preserving? Is it colonial? What do those things mean? How much of it has become such a category that defines your life, who you have sex with, how you have sex, how you perform. Everything about how I exist comes back to my gender and how I display that gender, whether in its most conventional way or in its most deviant form. They surveillance all of our lives. So I think that that's a really good question for Black people in this movement about where gender fits, where sexuality exists. I hope that was helpful.
No, that was great. Like, the fact that you brought up the Iana Dior thing, like, I've been seeing people say, like, they support Black women, but when it comes to the trans women, they don't support them. So it's like, you have to be all for one. Like, there's no division. So I feel like that was great that you was able to speak on that. Hello?
I personally feel like you cannot be for Black Lives Matter if you're not for all Black lives, because collectively we are all Black. We do share a skin color. We do share that, but in the same breath, each of us have an individual struggle, and our lives are not a monolith. So in order for us to show up and to make radical change, we have to be present for each other's, even though we are, even inside of our communities, we have to be present. So many people don't even know that the reason why we have, so many trans women were on the forefront of civil rights and change. Marsha P. Johnson, she's the one that threw the first brick at Stonewall. There's so much of this. People don't even know that so many of these movements were led by queer Black men, trans women, all types of people who actually not only were shunned because they were Black, but because of their sexuality and gender identity. So in order for us to be present, we have to be present for each and every one of us. Like queer children, they're thrown out because of their sexuality, their gender identity. This is ridiculous. Trans women are dying at an exponential rate. This is just like, we can't have this. So it's so many different issues that we have to worry about within our community, and we can focus on all of them at the same time. It's not just about Black men being killed. We are all being killed, but we have to recognize that we have to stand up for each other if our voices are not being heard.
I completely agree.
And Iana Dior was, I believe she was assaulted by cis men and women in the Black community. And so what does it mean to have this type of intercommunal violence? That's also supported systemically. So I also think that that's important, which is a very different conversation than Black on Black crime.
Yeah.
But I think that's important.
It happens to me, but I feel like we had a question. Did anybody have a question? Right here? Oh, I'll bring the mic to you. You can sit there. You got it, you got it. There you go.
So just to kind of piggyback on what you were saying as far as like our black men, through this time I've felt compelled to give the black men in my life a safe space to be vulnerable and to speak on vulnerability, just so they are made aware, especially of, you know, the trans and the LGBTQ community, and they feel more comfortable to speak on that in themselves. Like, I feel like when we bring this up to our black men, sometimes they feel like if they show any vulnerability, then that is a hit to their masculinity. You know, I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and I had to compare my femininity and also my relationship to my masculinity to him, so that way I can let him know that that's not doing anything to my femininity not doing anything to my femininity to get in contact or understand and work with my masculinity as well, because I have both within me, and we all have both within us. So I feel like, you know, I think right now it is important to just give our black men the space to be vulnerable, or go to them and say, be vulnerable with me, you know?